shall be undertaken in a structured manner, with groups such as the health frontline workers being accorded first priority. Regarding the COVID-19 vaccination program, the Ministry of Health and Childcare plans to vaccinate about 60% of the country's population in order to achieve herd immunity, which is about 10 million people. A development plan mapping the priority groups for rollout of the vaccine has already been developed. Already, government has set aside $100 million for the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. Treasury will continue to ensure funding for the procurement of other medical supplies, including medicines and PPE, in the fight against this pandemic COVID-19. In terms of vaccines procurement, the government of the People's Republic of China has extended a donation of 200,000 Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine doses. The donation and the initial batch purchased are expected in Zimbabwe by 15 February 2021 and the first week of March 2021, respectively. The 76 to 86% efficacy of the Sinopharm vaccine was endorsed by the World Health Organization. Meanwhile, efforts to procure other COVID-19 vaccines, such as the Sputnik Victory from Russia, among others, are underway. India, like China, has also offered a donation, and an option to purchase commercially, and modalities for this offer are still being worked out. Zimbabwe has also submitted its expression of interest to participate under the IU COVID-19 vaccination program. The private sector in this country will also support government through a formula that they will keep 50% of what they would have procured for their employees. The COVID-19 vaccines will be administered to citizens freely. The initial consignment will cater for frontline workers, the elderly, and other vulnerable groups in Zimbabwe. The administration of the COVID-19 vaccinations in Zimbabwe will be on a voluntary basis. Cabinet received a report on the update on the COVID-19 outbreak. This report was presented by the Minister of Defense and War Veterans Affairs, Honorable Kashiri Mchinguri, as the chairperson of the Ministerial Task Force on the COVID-19 outbreak. Cabinet was informed that as of 5 February 2021, Zimbabwe's cumulative COVID-19 cases stood at 34,171, with 27,759 recoveries, 1,288 deaths, and a case fatality rate of 3.8%. The recovery rate has improved to 81%, with 32,472 persons having tested COVID-19 positive from local transmissions. There are 5,124 active cases. The cumulative number of infected healthcare workers now stands at 3,718, up from 3,442. It is noted that 32.8% of COVID-19 related deaths have been occurring in communities, while the remaining 67.2% have occurred in health facilities. In light of the high percentage of community deaths, government is working on updating guidelines for informing the public on how to manage cases isolating at home and when these cases should be taken to health facilities. On the production of personal protective equipment and essential medicines, government is continuing being complemented also, and government is continuing producing those and is being complemented by imports. The enforcement of the curfew under the level 4 lockdown is continuing, and citizens are once again reminded of the need to observe all COVID-19 protocols and regulations in order to ensure that the nation stays on top of the situation in relation to the pandemic. The lockdown restrictions will be reviewed at the end of the 2 weeks extension period. Then Cabinet received a report, government position on irregular and dysfunctional settlements in local authorities. This report was received on government's position on irregular and dysfunctional settlements in local authorities, as presented by Honorable Vice President CGDN Chiwenga. Cabinet noted that the current incessant rains since January 2021 have exposed a crisis that could no longer be ignored owing to the immediate impact on households and implications on livelihoods and businesses. The heavy rains have been flooding settlements on wetlands and in low-lying areas and destroying homes and property, with relocation of affected households turning out to be the only viable option. The situation around illegal settlements has exposed irregularities and inadequacies in settlement siting, planning, and management. There has been massive illegal construction of houses on wetlands and along river basins and other water bodies, and also on land originally meant for social amenities. There is the construction of houses without supporting infrastructure for water, sewer, roads, and electricity, and maroon settlements developed without links to formal services offered by towns and cities. There has also been a construction of unapproved substandard structures on illegal settlement created and controlled by land barons, rampant abuse of state and municipal land, and encroachment onto private property. Land barons were working in cahoots with corrupt state and municipal officers and fleecing unsuspecting home seekers. Also evident is the widespread contamination of watercourses and water bodies, environmental degradation, and the destruction of flora and habitats for fauna, and an emerging threat to public health. Accordingly, Cabinet resolved that ministries, departments, and agencies worked in concert in order to stem the tide of neglect and malpractices around illegal settlements. All those who broke the laws and bylaws on urban settlement will be brought to book without fear or favor. Cabinet created task teams to correct the situation by instituting the following strategies. A, the mapping of wetlands and other ecologically sensitive spaces at growth points in towns, cities, and peri-urban areas. The exercise shall be expanded to cover the whole country in order to draw up a national master plan of all ecologically sensitive spaces on which human settlements and related developments shall not take place. A national wetlands policy and guidelines is being formulated in order to protect the environment for sustainable development. Then B, the identification of and quantification of all settlements in flood-prone areas on illegal spaces in other irregular places, and thereby enabling government to establish the magnitude of likely displacements from unavoidable demolitions. And C, the identification of suitable alternative land on which to relocate families and households who are facing displacement under the corrective exercise, both for temporary settlement and for eventual construction of permanent structures. Then D, the provision of off-site and on-site infrastructure and general comprehensive servicing of land in anticipation of allocation of stains and construction of structures according to set plans and standards. E, to ensure that all such settlements, planned settlements, are integrated into the national power grid for electricity supply. In the same vein, the Ministry of Information, Communication Technologies, Postal and Courier Services will ensure access to the requisite ICT services. Then F, the production of appropriate housing plans and architectural designs which promote the new thrust of settlement densification through high-rise structures, compact and integrated residential housing. Then G, the streamlining of the operations of cooperatives, including through deregistering all cooperatives which were captured by land barons, but also ensuring that innocent cooperatives and bona fide home seekers are not unduly victimized. H, the redrawing of boundaries and demarcations are done to clearly assign jurisdiction, rights, responsibilities, and entitlements. The Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission and the Special Anti-Corruption Unit in the Office of the President and Cabinet will be part of this process in order to ensure that corrupt individuals are arrested and the law takes its course. Implementation of these directives will be spearheaded by the Enhanced Cabinet Committee on Emergency Preparedness and Disaster Management, which will be chaired by the Honorable Vice President CGDN Chiwenga. The Cabinet received a report on the state of the country's roads. Following a presentation on the state of the country's roads by the Minister of Local Government and Public Works, Honorable July Moyo, Cabinet noted that due to extensive damage on roads, some areas have been rendered inaccessible. This state of affairs has adversely affected socio-economic activities such as distribution of food and inputs and the delivery of important services. Cabinet has resolved that all roads in the country be declared a state of disaster. The declaration will facilitate the release of resources for the repair and rehabilitation of all roads that require such works. The restorative works will cover all urban areas as well as the rural and trunk roads. It will also pave way for the standardization of quality under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructural Development. The necessary legal procedures to give effect to the declaration is being worked on. The Cabinet received another report on the status of the 2020-2021 agricultural season. Cabinet received a report on the status of the 2020-2021 agricultural season, which was presented by the Minister of Lands and Agriculture, Water, Fisheries and Rural Settlement, Dr. Masuka. The Cabinet noted that owing to a good rainfall season across the country, good yields are expected. Elaborate plans are therefore being put in place for efficient management of the 2020-21 crops, particularly from harvesting to storage. Grain dryers have been purchased in order to expedite harvesting. On a related positive note, Cabinet wishes to inform the nation that Tonga Tullet and the Masvingo Development Trust have commenced harvesting of 2,500 hectares of the 2020 winter maize crop. The incessant rains are slowing down progress, and additional equipment is being mobilized in order to minimize losses. The first and second rounds of crop and livestock assessments results are expected end of February and April 2021, respectively. Preliminary assessments indicate that 338,619 hectares of maize were planted under the Pfumvudza program. Then a monitoring and evaluation team has verified maize planting on 168,466 hectares under the National Enhanced Agricultural Productivity Program, Command Agriculture that is. A full report on the assessment on hectarage will be presented at the end of February 2021. Meanwhile, measures have been put in place to ensure the current shortages of the top dressing fertilizer, and that will be dealt with soon. Cabinet received an update on the 2021 weather outlook and implications. The Minister of Environment, Climate, Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Honorable Hyobu, briefed Cabinet on the 2021 weather outlook and implications thereof. He reported that the rainfall outlook for the February to April 2021 period would be within the normal to above normal category across all the geographical regions of the country. As such, more rainfall is expected during the 3 months, with a likelihood of flooding and waterlogging in poorly drained areas. The Minister reported that the average national dam level was at 88% as at 5 February 2021, with anticipation that the levels would increase with the forecasted increased rainfall. This should see water availability improving, hence resulting in high potential for more land under irrigation during the winter season. Pasture availability has also improved and are expected to continue improving with expected rainfall during February, March, and April. The nation is thus advised to be on high alert as more natural disasters are likely to occur as a result of these incessant rains. People in malaria-prone areas should take necessary precautions, while those on flood-prone areas should relocate to high ground. Government will continue to institute measures to protect its citizens in the advent of natural disasters. Then the Cabinet received a report on the National Disability Policy. Cabinet considered and approved the National Disability Policy, which was presented by the Honorable Vice President KCD Mohadi as Chairman of the Minister of the Cabinet Committee on Social Services and Poverty Eradication. The National Disability Policy seeks to address the marginalization and discrimination of persons with disabilities, to empower them to improve their own quality of life and enable them to contribute towards the national development agenda. It sets standards for the inclusion of persons with disabilities in all facets of life, thereby serving as an overarching policy framework on disability across all sectors, including the public, private, and development sectors. Approval of the policy will pave way for the drafting of the bill in line with the country's constitution. Then a report was given on virtual summit of the African Union. Cabinet received an update on the virtual summit of the African Union, which was held on the 6th of February 2021. This was presented by the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education, Innovation, Science and Technology Development, Professor Muriel, who is the Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Trade. Cabinet was informed that the 34th Ordinary Session of the African Union Assembly of Heads of State and Government was held under the chairmanship of His Excellency, the President Felix Tshisekedi of the Democratic Republic of Congo. His Excellency, the President, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, led the Zimbabwean delegation. President Tshisekedi assumed the chairmanship, replacing His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa. Among other issues, the summit dwelt on the continent's response to COVID-19 outbreak. The latest efforts spearheaded by the African Vaccines Acquisition Task Team are aimed at acquiring equitable and affordable COVID-19 vaccines to be distributed to all RU member states. The target is to ensure that at least 60% of the continent's population is vaccinated within a reasonable time frame. International and continental finance institutions are supporting financing mechanisms for the procurement of vaccines, as well as the research and development in member states. This brings us to the end of our post-briefing today. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. And I also want to thank members of the media for attending the press.
Thank you. Thank you.